This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't.
Isn't it interesting how some things change and some things stay exactly the same? What's up, you guys, and welcome back. My name's Natasha, and this is Behavior Breakdowns. Today, we are breaking down the body language and behavior of none other than the one, the only Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump is someone who is very unique with his body language, and let's not forget that he is a politician. He is media trained. Now, one of the things that I've been doing with my politician breakdown videos is taking a look at some footage from many years ago. Let's go 10, 12, 20 years ago, and looking at some of the behavior and body language that we see from politicians in their earlier days, and then comparing it to the type of body language and behavior that we see now. So fortunately for us, Donald Trump has been in front of the camera quite a bit. I want to take a look at this clip of him from the 1990s. This is a CNN interview, and it's super interesting. Let's take a look and see what we can find.
The media is so protected, and it's ridiculous that they're so protected, but they can write virtually anything. The difference is, with me, at least they pay some price. And I think more people should have that attitude, and I think you'd find a lot more accurate reporting, including yours.
What was inaccurate so far?
I thought your demeanor was inaccurate. I thought that questions that you were posing to people in my organization were inaccurate and false and unfair.
So when it comes to microexpressions, I highly recommend checking out the work of Dr. Paul Ekman. He is a world-renowned researcher and psychologist who discovered 7 universal facial expressions. And those facial expressions can also translate into microexpressions. Microexpressions happen in half a second. They're very quick and they are involuntary. So when we see this clip of Trump, we do see disgust.
But they can write virtually anything. The difference.
Disgust usually looks like the nose crinkling and the sides of the mouth going up. And we see that when Trump says they can write virtually anything. There's a little micro expression there of disgust. So one of the other things we see here is Trump go to his eye accessing cue, and that's quite common for him. He usually looks down to the left or looks down to the right, and that's his baseline. That's common for him. He's doing it here in this clip from the 90s, and he still does it today in 2025. If you pay attention to eye accessing cues, you can start to determine patterns in someone's baseline. If somebody always goes down here when they're talking about an emotional event, and then they go up here when they're talking about a numerical event, you can start to understand where their eyes are going to go when they are talking about specific information. And if you see deviation or change from that, then you need to make a mental note and say, well, something's different there and something's changed. Baseline for Trump is that he is down here or down here when he's thinking logically about his response.
Well, questions by definition can't be inaccurate. They're questions.
Well, I think the questions themselves were put in such a way that made them statements, and they became statements as opposed to questions, and I think that's not good reporting.
Such as?
It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think your viewers would be very interested in it, nor do I want to embarrass you.
No, I don't think I would be, but let's talk about what we talked about yesterday. Those in the financial community I'm talking about, and we talked about this on the phone,
So he says it doesn't matter, shakes his head no, all congruent, it doesn't matter, he doesn't care. And then he says your viewers, and he actually breaks the fourth wall.
It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't think your viewers would be very interested in it.
Breaking the fourth wall is a term that comes out of the mid-18th century. It comes from the world of theater, where a performing actor would turn to the audience and break that invisible barrier so that the audience was connected to to the person on stage. The actor and the audience have bridged that connection, and the audience was no longer just a spectator. They were being spoken to. They were a part of the performance. So we see Trump actually barrel down the camera there and break the fourth wall and address the audience. We see some eye movement as well. You see that sizing up gesture there. So someone might use that gesture if they're checking somebody out. They might kind of look them up and down. But on the other hand, it can also be an aggressive and provoking gesture because they're sizing up the competition. So Trump is sizing up the reporter here, non-verbally saying, let's see what you've got. Trump can also not hide his disbelief here when the reporter responds that he wouldn't necessarily be embarrassed.
I don't think I would be, but let's talk about what we talked about yesterday.
So Trump's mouth hangs open. That's usually disbelief, and the shoulders go down as well. He can't hide his disbelief that the reporter had said that.
But the ones who said negative things and
Here we are.
Well, we've got to talk
Back to the negative.
Back to the negative.
Back to the. You know what? Do this interview with somebody else.
So we talked about this yesterday on the phone. This is exactly what we talked
Do
about.
the interview with somebody else. Really. You don't need this. Do it with somebody else. Have a good time. Because frankly, you're a very negative guy, and I think it's very unfair reporting. Good luck.
I disagree with you. Sorry you feel that way.
So we have that confirmation nod. Here we are. We've landed on this. We're back to the negative. And he makes eye contact with somebody from his team off camera. We also have that head shaking, and the way he holds out the microphone is so interesting because it's something that's almost an item of garbage. We see that finger gesture there. He goes to raise his finger, and this is a very direct gesture. I'm always really cautious with using fingers because once you start finger pointing, it becomes very direct. Finger gestures can mean a bunch of different things. Sometimes it's as simple as raising a finger to tell someone to stop. So that's what we see here. We see that gesture stop, and then he slaps his knee there for that moment of finality, just suggesting like I'm done and I'm getting up now and I'm about to leave. What's interesting as well is that Trump sticks his hand out. He initially comes in as a palms up handshake. So usually this is seen as being more submissive. When someone is doing a dominance display and they're shaking hands with somebody, the hand normally comes in palms down. And that's usually saying, I'm the dominant one here, I'm in control. In general, it's most polite to have a unilateral handshake where you just come in and meet somebody evenly. You're not trying to portray anything. He's actually shaking the hand as he's leaving, showing, I don't have respect for this conversation anymore. I'm on my way out. You haven't shown me respect, so I'm not going to give it to you in return. So let's take a look at another older clip of Donald Trump. This one is when he was on Oprah, and this is in 1988.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
Another thing we know about Trump is that he talks a lot with the front of his mouth. He's known for his sort of lip pursing mouth gestures. And we see some of that here, and we also hear more of that New York accent.
Probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally.
He's a bit less punchy than he is now. So we see that same eye accessing down and to the left. We know that that's his thinking place. We also see the eyebrows furrowed together. Sometimes people, when they are trying to solve something or think critically, they'll furrow their eyebrows. So if I were to pause this frame here and ask you, what type of emotion do you think this person is experiencing? What would you say? So we do see those eyebrows up and we see the eyes wide. Now, generally that is an indication of surprise. So he's talking about if the states ever got to a position that was so bad or so dire that he couldn't help but run for president to try and make things right again. And we see that surprise on his face as he talks about those ideas. One of the other things I like to point out when we're looking for signs of deception is any kind of incongruency in gestures. So you can look for incongruency when the gestures don't match the tone and cadence of the words being spoken. Usually people will gesture to hit their points. And if you see somebody gesturing when they shouldn't, or they're gesturing off beat on something, that can be a bit of incongruency and it can be taken as a red flag. So Trump's hands are actually almost out of frame here. They're right at the bottom of the frame, but we can see that he's hitting all of those points. His gestures are matching the tone and cadence of the words that he's saying.
How we're really making other people live like kings and we're not.
So that's generally a positive thing. It suggests sincerity. It suggests that his thoughts are truly in alignment with the words that he's speaking. You do see that classic hand gesture there from Trump at the end. And even back in 1988, he was learning to use his body language to help emphasize his points and to help him articulate his messages. So let's take a look at a more recent clip of Trump and let's see if we can spot any differences or similarities in terms of his body language and behavior and the way that he's learned to communicate.
Let me ask you, Mr. President, just about pardons. I've got three names for you. And the first one, look, the media didn't care about this story when Joe Biden was in office. Suddenly they care about this story again. Ghislaine Maxwell serving 20 years in prison for sex trafficking. Is clemency on the table for her in exchange for testimony?
I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the case. But I know I have the right to do it. I have the right to give pardons. I've given pardons to people before, but nobody's even asked me to do it.
So we do see initially some similarities with the eye accessing cues. But the first thing that I really want to point out is the shift in cadence. He's talking about presidential pardons. He says, I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. And then he says, I know nothing about the case. And the case part is separate from the cadence of everything else. So that initial cadence, I'm talking about the flow and rhythm of his voice. I'm allowed to do it. I know nothing about it. It's all flowing along until he says, I know nothing about the case.
I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the case.
The case stands as a separate piece. And we also see some changes in his body language here. Very difficult to spot. Politicians are really well trained, but we do see the eyebrows raise there. So that to me suggests that there might be something around that piece, the case, that maybe he does know something about. The eyebrows can raise for a number of different reasons. It can be around disbelief, it can be around surprise, but it's most commonly around social recognition or social approval. So we do see the eyebrows go up there as Trump looks to connect with the reporter on the idea of the case.
Sean Diddy Combs,
Right.
would you consider pardoning him?
Well, he was essentially, I guess, sort of half innocent.
Yes.
I don't know what they do. He's still in jail or something, but he was celebrating a victory, but he seems, I guess it wasn't as good as a victory. Probably, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great, and seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile.
He said some not so nice things about you, sir.
And it's hard, like you, we're human beings.
Right.
And we don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statements. So I don't know, it's more difficult. It makes it more, I'm being honest, it makes it more difficult to do.
Half innocent is an interesting phrase. Can someone truly be half innocent? And if they are half innocent, then are they half guilty? So we do hear Trump say probably, and then we have that exhale.
Probably.
It's almost like he thought better of it. He's kind of ruminating on something in his head. We have that exhale and the shoulders go down. He also does a shoulder shrug there, suggesting some uncertainty around the idea of a pardon for Diddy and his relationship with Diddy prior to Trump running for office. I do hear a difference in Trump's voice. Mind you, this is almost 40 years later, so his cadence has changed a little bit and his voice is a bit more raspy than it was.
I'm being honest. It makes it more difficult to do.
So he says, I'm being honest, and I don't see any signs of deception around that. He's talking about his own judgment being potentially clouded by the relationship and how his relationship shifted and changed and whether or not the pardon would happen.
Your Deputy Attorney General sat down with Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. I'm just wondering when the American people get to hear what she said during that interview.
Well, I don't know because I haven't spoken about it, but he's a very talented guy, Todd Blanche, and a very straight shooter.
Yeah.
And I think he probably wanted to know, just to get a feeling of it, because we'd like to release everything, but we don't want people to get hurt that shouldn't be hurt.
Yeah.
And I would assume that was why he was there. I want to release everything. I just don't want people to get hurt. You can't have people associated. First of all, the files were run by some very bad people and very sick people like Comey and Lisa, the whole group, all those people in that office, they ran those files for 4 years. And if they were going to use the files, they would have used it before my election.
So we do have some more eye accessing, and we see another eyebrow raise. One thing I do want to point out is the distancing language around we don't want people to get hurt. So it's a very broad statement. It's non-specific.
Because we'd like to release everything, but we don't want people to get hurt that shouldn't be hurt.
We don't want people to get hurt. Well, who is we, and who are the people that you don't want to get hurt? Even when Trump is initially asked about the potential timeline for that interview to be released, he redirects the conversation to focusing on what a great and talented person Todd is.
If they were going to use the files, they would have used it before my election. Because unless they're stupid, which to a certain extent they are stupid.
You're saying they would have released the information.
Well, they had the
before
files. They
election.
control the files.
Yes.
I didn't control the files. They control the files for 4 years. So if they had something, they would have released it before the election. Because they are not geniuses, but they're evil.
Right.
There are a lot of evil people.
So we do see some shifts in posture there from Trump as he kind of moves back in his seat and says, they had the files, they could have released them before the election if there was anything that was going to implicate Trump. But I don't see any sort of incongruency or even anger on Trump's face. It's actually like there's almost a lack of emotion there. Besides the eyebrow raising to emphasize his points, I don't see a lot of other gestures that might indicate anger or deception around the information that is being held and discussed here. Unfortunately, as we know, innocent people have been hurt, and the idea of releasing this information and everything tied to this case is to bring justice to the innocent people that have been hurt. So let's take a look at another recent clip of Trump.
We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful. I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be. It's a question of will it be really fast, like the border, You know, everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation.
Trump does use a lot of big gestures, and he uses them strategically. This is often dominance displays. Someone who is willing to take up space shows and projects confidence. People who are unwilling to take up space are generally perceived as being less powerful. One of the other things about Trump is that he often will take you down a storyline. He'll start with one thing and suddenly will be 50 yards from where we began. So he'll start talking about one concept and then slowly the pathway changes and we've been redirected and now we're focusing on other things. So that can be a very strategic tactic that politicians do. It's not that he's unwilling to answer questions, it's that he starts to answer a question and then it goes into a different direction, whatever direction he wants to take us down. So we do see some interesting body language here. We see some shoulder shrugging, and when he says, I have zero doubt, he draws that line, which is interesting. Zero is not a zero gesture, it's a line, a bottom line. And he says, I have zero doubt, and then we do see a shoulder shrug after that. So that does suggest a bit of uncertainty around that. Normally, if you have zero doubt, you feel confident in what you're saying, and you don't follow up that by having a shoulder shrug. Trump's cadence in modern day is very different than how it was back in the 80s. He's much more punchy, and the manner in which he delivers his speech is almost takes on a comedic tone at times because he speaks very quickly and then it goes down.
Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching.
And he delivers his lines like that, and he uses that cadence to emphasize particular ideas and narratives. So what do you guys think we can conclude with some of Trump's body language and behavior? From my perspective, he is unapologetic in his manner of speaking. He doesn't carry the same sort of diplomacy as a lot of politicians we are used to seeing. And if you're in Canada, if you're one of my Canadian viewers, I'm curious if you think that Trump and Pierre Poilievre have similar styles of body language, because I've heard that narrative before, but after breaking down both Pierre and Trump, I can't help but think they are quite different. Pierre is much more rigid. He's a little bit more poised and put together, and Trump is, I would say, more flamboyant. He's more willing to use his gestures. He's unapologetic. He says what's on his mind, even if it is inappropriate at times. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What does Trump's body language and behavior achieve for him? And do you think it's more refined than it was, or is it more obnoxious and grandiose? You can also write in the comments below whose body language and behavior I should break down next. Should we keep doing more politicians, or should we look to celebrities and average people? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one.